Hello, hello. I got cut off, but because I really believe in this message, I'm going to continue going. So I wanted to just repeat the two steps just in case you did not get a chance to see the first video. If there is a conversation that you are avoiding, these are 8 things that you need to keep in mind or try on to make the conversation easier for you so you can walk away and get what you really need. Tip number 1, stop treating confrontation like a 4-letter word. Jump right in because you can't afford not to address it if it's a relationship that you care about. And if you're at your wit's end and shit is bothering you, it is your responsibility to build the courage and bring up the conversation. Tip number 2, remember that unaddressed conflict only gets worse with time. Number 3, leave your ego and your assumptions at the door. It's telling me my connection's weak again. I'm going to keep going. You are not a mind reader. So whatever assumptions you may have about what the person's thinking or saying or about to do are probably just projections of your insecurity. Don't project on other people. So, the other person is most likely not a mind reader. So if you don't say what you want, you're a lot less likely to get it. Don't assume that they know anything. Break things down and make it easier for them to give you what you want. Be as clear and as transparent as you can. Stop assuming that they should know because it's dangerous and it's not helpful. And also, you want to make sure that you're giving the person the benefit of the doubt. You want to not assume that they're being malicious. If you go in defensive, then you will end up needing to defend yourself. So that just makes it much harder for you to get what you want. So that's all part of, leaving your ego and your assumptions at the door. Tip number 4, use I statements. I statements are statements that help you to take agency for your feelings without attacking or trying to assume things about the other person. An example of an I statement would be, I feel blank when blank. Use I to talk about yourself as often as possible so the person knows you're only speaking from your perspective and not trying to assume you know anything about their inner workings, right? And when you say I feel, remember to actually insert an emotion after I feel. If you say I feel like, that's not an emotion. That's probably an assumption, and it's probably going to be an asshole thing to say. Be careful with that. Instead of saying I feel like, you could say I feel rejected, I feel slighted, I feel hurt, I feel irritated, I feel unprepared, I feel put on the spot. Those are all examples of emotions that you may be feeling at the time. So I feel blank when blank. Tip number 5, make clear, doable requests. A confused mind never buys. So if you are saying something that the other person has to try and figure out, interpret, decipher, calculate, they're a lot more likely to A, check out, or to B, misinterpret what you said and then piss you off further. So try and make your requests as clear as possible. If you're saying, I feel neglected when you spend all night out at the club with your friends instead of coming home to me, I would request that we schedule one night a week that's just for us, right? That it's very clear how I feel. It's very clear what I would like, and there's a number there. One night a week, just for us. I mean, there's no confusion about what you're looking for, right? So make clear, doable requests. Number 6, if you feel yourself getting triggered, which is very likely if you're already in an uncomfortable conversation, if you feel yourself getting triggered, stop, take a breath, actually stop to take a breath so you can think more clearly, and then return to the conversation. This might even mean that you need to walk away for a couple moments and then come back, but stop, take your breath, collect yourself, and then return to the conversation. This is super key, but that requires that you be mindful, and that requires that you be aware of what's going to trigger you. Everybody doesn't know that yet. Maybe I can do another video about how to figure out what triggers you later, but take that break. You don't have to speak in that moment of rage. Sometimes that means that it's time for you to listen because maybe you'll get more clarity instead of jumping to conclusions. So stop and take a breath. Number 7, this is my favorite. Use the Offner method. The Offner method is a tool that has been used all over the world in super serious conflict. It's been used in Israel-Palestinian, conflict mediation. It's been used in community conferencing. It is a super, super powerful tool to kind of help you to show empathy, help you to share power so that nobody feels like they're getting slighted or neglected or railroaded. And it's basically meant for you to communicate effectively. So you can ask for what you want, you can show empathy for another person, and you can move towards solutions that work for everybody rather than trying to compromise on something that nobody actually wants. So the Offner method relies on I statements. It relies on coming from a place of compassion and listening for understanding. And it relies on you being clear, direct, and transparent. Let me explain what the letters in the tool stand for. Offner stands for observation, feeling, need, and then request. That is the order of the statements that you are going to use when you are speaking to someone using the Offner tool. So an example of that would be, first you state the observation. I noticed that you left 7 dishes in the sink, right? The feeling would be, I felt irritated because I thought that we had agreed to wash the dishes that we use right after we've used them. Then you would state a need. I need to keep our kitchen clean and functional. And then you would say a request. I request that the next time you use a dish, that you either wash it in the moment or let me know that you're not able to wash it so I don't come home to see a sink full of dishes, right? That's a very, it's a facetious example, but Offner method is really strong and powerful when you work it and when you use it. It requires mindfulness, it requires a willingness to be open and transparent, and it requires a willingness to be compassionate. You don't just want to push your point. You want to make sure that you are asking for what you want without attacking the other person and making clear why what you want is important. So, Offner method. If you have more questions about that, we can talk about that offline. So the 8th tip, and this is probably the one that people forget the most, but that makes the biggest difference. Thank the other person. When you are having this difficult conversation, it is really important that you thank them, A, for taking the time to talk to you, B, for holding space to hear your feelings, C, for getting you, D, for finding the courage to, share their truth or speak what's on their mind. And I just think it's really important because sometimes people think, well, we had the conversation and I had to have the conversation, but you didn't. You chose to bring it up and they chose to hear you and stay with you in that moment. And even if y'all still don't agree at the end of the conversation, the fact that you were able to have it means that the relationship is growing. So that's definitely something to hold on to and to honor. Let me very quickly repeat these 8 steps, and then I'm going to let you know how you can get in touch with me if you have further questions. So the number 1 step for that difficult conversation you've been dreading, it's to stop treating confrontation like a 4-letter word. The 2nd tip, remember that unaddressed conflict only gets worse with time. 3rd tip, leave your ego and your assumptions at the door. 4th tip, use I statements. I feel this emotion when this circumstance takes place. Number 5, make clear, doable requests because a confused mind never buys. Number 6, if you feel yourself getting triggered, stop, take a breath, and when you're ready, return to the conversation at hand. Number 7, use the Offner tool for effective nonviolent communication, observation, feeling, need, request. And number 8, remember to thank the person for taking the time and holding the space for this difficult conversation. These tips and tools are simple enough to understand, but they can be a lot harder to implement. Luckily for you, that's what I'm here for. So if you find that there's a conversation you've been dreading, if you know somebody that has a conversation they've been dreading, I'm going to ask that you A, share out this video with someone that could really use it, and B, that you get on the phone with me to talk about ways that we can work together to help you feel more comfortable asking for what you want, to feel more comfortable standing up for yourself when you know that you've been slighted or hurt or violated in some way. To kind of stand up for what's important to you, because you're the only one that can do that, and if you don't do it, you're the only one you can blame. So check me out at dreamleaplive.com. If you want more tips like this, then you can sign up to be on my email list and talk more about tips and tools that you can use to stand up for the life that you want and to stand up for being who you are unapologetically. And if you're not following me already on this page, then please do that. Dream Leap Live on Facebook, Dream Leap Live on Twitter, and my website is dreamleaplive.com. Hope this was helpful. Go on, get yours, and live deliciously. Bye.